Hi, everybody. So my story is kind of two stories tied together. It basically revolves around how many people have families that enjoy playing games, like board games? Yeah, we wouldn't be here otherwise. Okay. So my family loves to play games. We're also highly competitive, all of us. Some of us aren't very good at playing games. And what's really odd is that those of us who aren't very good at playing games are also the ones that are emotionally unstable. So that's kind of like the only person is competitive, emotionally unstable, and into playing games is my family is Caligula. And Caligula, he did not, the Roman, none of you are into Rome. Okay, anyway, Caligula, moving on. Whatever. The point is, I love to play games. I'm terrible at them, and then I get like violently upset when I lose. And we're also like ethically questionable, my whole family. So my father one time during a game of Scrabble tried to pass off the word beantard, and literally sulked when we were like, "That's not a word. You can't even find that in the dictionary." He's like, "It's French," and I was like, "Well, even if it was French, you still couldn't play it, Dad, because this is an English game of Scrabble we're playing." And then I went home to Montreal and tried to get away with "hello." And when my friend was like, "Why?" I was like, "It's the way you say hello if you're trying to be classy." So I didn't think that my problem would be a problem for real. And then one time I had a girlfriend and she was really good at games and very competitive. So we were playing Scrabble one time and I had the word isotope on my little whatever that thing is called. And I don't know if you guys play Scrabble, but isotope plus the S that it was going to land on would have used up all my tiles to give me a 50-point bonus, plus the points on the numbers, plus it was going on to a triple word score in my little head. It was like the mother lode of Scrabble words, and I was pretty excited. And my girlfriend, who's very good at playing Scrabble, which is actually a game of strategy and not vocabulary, saw me eyeing the triple word score and put the word tops there instead. And I was trying really hard to keep it together. But at some point I cried and then told her she was trying to sabotage the relationship. I'm laughing and I wish I could say that was a joke. It's really not. And she got this look on her face where she was like, "I feel like I knew you. And now I'm kind of afraid of you. But I'm also never going to lose at Scrabble on purpose just to keep you from getting this crazy." So we both agreed that board games weren't part of our future. That was how we dealt with that problem. Unfortunately, your family of origin is neither so forgiving nor willing to change the way they live for you. So my real family doesn't change anything. They just mock me. And so like 3 years ago, they got really into Risk. And I thought, how can this go wrong? I'm a pacifist, leftist, queer woman who doesn't care for war. So obviously, I will not get invested in this game. And therefore, I will not cry. You're all laughing at me like you know how this ends. So the first time we played Risk, my best friend was there. So luckily, I didn't go crazy on my blood relations. I went crazy on another unrelated person to me, who at a certain point, like, and the going joke of that game was that I was just trying to hang out in Quebec. Like, I was defending Quebec because that's where all the cheese and the lesbians were. And that was my strategy. And I was not hurt in one tiny part of my being by this because it was true, because I had very few countries on the board. And then at a certain point, again, there was the weeping at the table, and I accused my best friend of trying to destroy me, which was also true because that was the battle card she had drawn. It was nothing personal. She was just supposed to wipe out all the red pieces on the board. So I ended up running upstairs and crying, and my best friend came upstairs and gave me the same look, which was like, "I'm your best friend, and I love you, but this is crazy. Why are you crying?" And we decided that time that it was just PMS. We retreated into the it's PMS defense and left it alone and never spoke of it again, like never. But she has never offered to play a board game with me again. Like, again, that's another potential board game partner I have lost. So about in October of this year, I was at my dad's birthday party, and he is allowed to pick whatever game he wants to play. And so the bastard picked Risk. And my brother was like, so you're going to go in for Quebec again? And I was like, shut up. And my stepmom was like, you're not going to cry again, are you? And I was like, it doesn't help when you bring it up over and over. It doesn't make it less likely to happen if you just choose a game where you know I cry and then ask me if I'm going to cry again. That's bullying. So I said, no, I'm not going to cry. I'm going to be fine. And I started to play, and like, it's a really weird thing to play a game and try to restrain yourself from tears. Like, everybody else is like, ah ha ha, this is hilarious. And I'm like, just roll a motherfucking 6 or you're gonna cry. Roll a 6, you don't wanna cry. And then you roll it and you're like, 2 1s. Ah, don't cry. Hold your shit together, Verburg. Do not cry. Which would have been fine, except the meanest, worst Scrabble player in the world is my stepmother. Or not Scrabble, Risk player in the world is my stepmother, and I'm also secretly convinced she hates me. And I don't know if that's true anymore. I feel like we've gotten closer, but when the Risk board comes out, sorry about that, it's like we go back to where we were when I was a teenager, and she's like, oh, I'm gonna get her, she's gonna cry, I'm gonna make her cry, it's gonna be okay. Like, I'm allowed to do this, we've all decided she's crazy. So she started mounting a fairly aggressive attack against my little soldiers who were stationed, I thought, really well fortified in South America, which I was hoping to take in an effort to then capture North America. I don't know how people actually strategize about Risk because it's really just dice rolls. So how is it possible to strategize? I mean, this is why I'm never going to join the army. This is why you'll never see me planning a war, because it seems largely random. So I had this idea. It was like put a lot of people around Mexico and protect the border with Africa, and then try to like gang up on all the people in like, you know, Alaska and whatever that eastern province is, but not Quebec. Give up Quebec. People will mock you. And I felt really strong. I was like, this can't go wrong. And then my stepmom, I saw her massing armies in Africa. And I was like, my dad was up in Europe. My dad is worse than me at Scrabble or at Risk. Why do I keep doing that? I'm so sorry. My dad is worse than me at everything, including Risk. Also cries. And therefore, he was not a threat in Europe. I was like, if anything goes wrong, I'll attack Europe. Dad will cry. It'll take the heat off me. But I was looking down at Africa, and I was like, this is not looking good. Africa is not looking good. I do not want Marie coming on me and trying to make me cry. I was like, what's the best defense? A good offense. So I proceeded to be like, Marie, I'm going to take you out of Africa. So this is where the violin starts playing, and if this was like The Hobbit or something, this would be the war where my guys are just in the mud and dying, and like one lonely dwarf with like a pickaxe is trying but failing. And Marie has this thing where she believes that if she whispers the number she wants in the dice, she'll get that number. And the thing is, it works. And I have a thing where I believe that if I believe secretly that I'm not going to get the number, no matter how much I pray for the number, I won't get the number. And I always secretly believe I'm not going to get the number, so I don't get the number. It's like, that's how I psych myself out at Risk. So she's going, 6, 6, 6, 6, yeah. And I'm going, 6, 6. And I lost every time until I had like 2 little guys just hanging out on Belize or whatever the one closest to Africa is. What is it? Anybody? Risk fans? No, good. We are all together. And then, you know, I had to wait all the way around the table while Marie stared at me and my 2 little guys. And I could see it, like it was like she was drooling. And then her turn came around, and she was like, Miriam, I'm going to attack you in South America. And I was like, I know you are. I know. So she started rolling all her 6s. She slowly took over South America. She started moving up to North America until once again, the only thing I had left were 2 little dudes on Quebec. just like last time. And I tried so hard to keep it together, like so hard. And then finally, at the last roll, when my pieces were off the table and my official participation in the game of Risk was done, I just stood up and said, I'm going upstairs to cry now. And I thought that was a victory because I didn't do it at the table. So I ran upstairs and hung out in the den, and it wasn't just crying. It was like, you know, in Blair Witch Project when there's the snot, and like right before she gets killed, it was terrible crying. It was the kind of crying you reserve for really horrible life events. So I'm sitting there like, I hate it so much. Why do they make me play it? It's so bad. And the only person they could send after me, of course, was my dad, who I take after, because he's the only person who's willing to put up with my crazy. Like, he's like, oh, I guess I got her genes or my genes. I should do something. So he went upstairs, and he sat down, and he said, I'm so sorry, sweetie. I don't even like Risk that much. It's Marie's game. And I went, why did we play it on your birthday then? Which really could have started a whole discussion about family dynamics and like who's the pushover and who gets to be direct and what are our boundaries. And we didn't want to go there because we're very close in temperament, we both like to avoid conflict. So he did not answer that question. He just said, why don't you why does this happen? And I just said, I feel like Risk isn't a game. It's just like institutionalized bullying, Dad, and I'm not a bully. It's just like, this is like the pity excuse for being bad at games, right? Like, I can play Catan and be like, I will kill you for that sheep. But like Risk, suddenly he's like, I'm so weak, help me. So my dad turned to me, but he's so nice. He went, oh, sweetheart, I know you're not a bully. You're also really bad at Risk. So that's my story. Thank you very much.